Hello, hello.
Hey,
How you doing?
pretty good. It's been a nice day. How about you?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm doing a rename of something which requires like parsing actually, 'cause it's like I'm looking for the word cluster in a repo that talks about Kubernetes. So it's been
That's
fun.
brutal. That's terrible.
Hey Simon, how you doing?
Yeah, good thanks, Abby. How are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good.
Great.
Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Everything. Everything all right? Yes. So it's been a long day. Hold on. Let me try. Oh.
Robert, are you taking the reins for today? Is that the plan, or what are you thinking?
I don't know. How much energy do you have? Because I don't have any.
I can give it a go to start. I may need to pop off a few minutes early, depending on where we're at in topics and things. So you can pick up from where I leave off if that happens, or else I'll try and stick it out for the whole hour. So
I can
welcome,
take
everyone.
notes while you lead.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So per usual, we'll go based on the notes talk. So come join us if you're not there already. If there's something you want to talk about that's not on there, go ahead and add it to the agenda, and we'll make sure to cover it. Give it another minute or two for people to come by, but we are nearly there.
So, Abby, this is Vijay. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, this is my first meeting here, and I am excited to be part of it. And I would like to, if time permits, I would like to introduce myself, who I am. When is the right time, I'll be happy to do that, and let me know.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's actually where we usually start. So just going to give another minute for people to come, but definitely to welcome you in. We'll start with that. We kind of go with like we call it 9 second. It comes from a couple of other conferences that do that, but sort of just a short intro would be amazing. And then often people have more things they want to share, and then we can always schedule in, time for, product deep dives or story deep dives based on the intros. So yeah, thank you, Vijay. Definitely want to hear from you. So we'll just give it. I usually wait till we usually wait till about the 5 minutes pass, just because meetings. Try and give people a chance to show up. Then we'll kick off.
Yeah.
All right, that's the tick over. So yeah, Vijay, if you don't mind kicking us off, tell us a bit about yourself and welcome to the group.
Thank you. And the easiest way for me to introduce in 90 seconds that you gave me is through slides, which I always kind of not fond of, but I want to make sure that I am prepared whenever it's needed. So, and I am Vijay, and then I have education. I have dual masters along with AI and ML certifications in different, both in computer science as well as in MBA in HR. And I've been working in the industry for 15 years in various companies like Oracle and OpenText, and also and DST for the first 7 years of my career. And then second half is mostly into Comcast and into various departments within the company, starting as a performance consultant and building high-scale data streaming platforms, and then moved to machine learning department in the customer experience division of it. And we built platforms there. And then now I moved to engineering, my leadership role in the AI and discovery organization, building the next-gen platforms and at Comcast. And at work, like I did, technically, like I was hands-on into performance engineering my entire career from the internship until now. Even now, I see as a performance is my core strength, and look at systems at scale. have been also a lot of participating in a lot of ERGs, and also I technically involved in a lot of initiatives across the company, outside and within. And impact-wise, I do as I also do as a guest faculty, and also mentoring some students from the nonprofit organizations, and I go for campus setting in various universities so far. And I believe in scalable technology and its impact on humanity is a big thing. That's where like why I tie to technologies because of that. And education for all is what the cause that I believe in. And then the journey I am progressing and where I am heading and what I am enjoying right now is executive and the strategy and leadership side, and mentoring and coaching and education for all, and authoring technical books and leadership side is where I'm heading to. And areas of focus is fine. And then technical landscape is typically like is what most of the data streaming platforms, as well as the service mesh microservices, and also solving systems at scale. So this is who I am.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like whenever someone asks me who I am, I stumble through it for about 30 to 60 seconds. That was extremely informative and very well aligned with what we're up to here. So the one thing I guess I didn't gather from that was how you found us. Like, how did you decide to come to the meeting today?
Yeah, that's a long story. Like definitely I myself used to feel like platform engineering is my in my DNA from last 7 years, because I wanted to apply in Google is the only FANG companies have that role. Whenever I apply, I got some setbacks, and when I was always seeing this is a big thing in the industry, why people are not noticing it. But now when I see this this becoming a thing, and I myself see like, hey, let's see what is going on in the industry. And I use a lot of cloud native computing foundation tools and technologies already. So I use that as an landscape is my go-to place for anything that I do first. So when I see this working group on the platform, say defining this as a model, that maturity model, oh, I think this is a perfect place I have to be, and I want to be in so that I can learn and I can also contribute to what I am learning and then where I'm heading to. So
Fantastic.
That's
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good to hear sort of what makes the group visible to people, because that's one of the things we've been talking about, is how to make it more approachable and more visible and cast a wider net. So the fact the maturity model was something that caught your eye, like that's helpful information, and maybe where, as you think about like how you found it and how other people might be able to find it, it's all good.
I would like to definitely add Andrew Grabner from Dynatrace, and we used to work here like almost 7 years before in they used to present a Dynatrace tooling. And when I see his talks and all, like, and then that I was looking for, I'm building some kind of a maturity model, but not on the platform side, but more on the developer productivity and different side. And where I see like when I see his talks, and then I think what is this maturity model? I went through that from the presentation that he shared.
That was the entry. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all that. I've asked a bunch of questions. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to share or ask, but cool. Thank you. I think Vijay, you're our only newcomer today. So the one downside of the newcomer intros is you don't get the huge intros to the rest of us. But happy to answer questions about where we come from and all of that as we go. The big thing that we are going to cover, as we always do, is sort of updates on where we are on projects and any asks that people have around those. And then if we can, we'll spend a little bit of time diving into one of the projects if it makes sense with the group that we have and the time that we have. But that's sort of the like extra benefit if possible. So I don't see Leanne here, and I'm not sure if anyone else has context, but there's been work around the restructuring of the tag website, which I know has also been a topic of conversation at the tag meetings. I think that there was a issue where the PR had a bit of so there's sort of two topics on this, so top two items. So we have both a restructuring of the website, which I don't think yet has been merged again. It was merged once but had failures. The idea behind that piece of work is that we would give each of the working groups under the tag app delivery a space to sort of own and add projects and make things more visible and more like unique to those working groups. Once that's done, so that's the second bullet point, but the top bullet point is actually what will be unlocked, which is that there's been a lot of great work around a prototype for creating a platform, and we want that to live on the website and be something that people can make pull requests into as examples and make that visible. So I don't have a lot of context on that. I don't see Leanne here. Is there anyone else who has context or questions or things they want to raise on either of those two initiatives?
I haven't been able to get to the tag meetings, so I haven't. I just know there's stuff going on with the website.
Yeah, I think we've got
That's
to
all the
figure out
context I have.
people with merge abilities, testing and merging abilities of that website, so that we can help get that across. So I'll maybe try and reach out to Josh and just see what's on his radar and who's looking into that. But
Is this merge on any other repository than Tag App Delivery?
no, I don't believe so. So
Uh,
I don't have deep knowledge of the piece of work,
Okay,
but I don't believe so.
All right, because I can merge.
Yeah. So I think that the only context I have is that it was merged once. It had some like linking issues. So there were some dead links unintentionally. And then so it got reverted. And then I don't know what work has been done since the revert to revalidate. So I wouldn't hit the merge button right away without checking that stuff. But yeah, that's sort of where we're at. So if anyone's interested in website stuff, Leanne has been taking the lead on that, but I'm sure would be open to more collaborators. So reach out if you're interested in that.
For the prototypes part, so it sounds like we're still trying to make a decision about what we want to do with that. It sounds like it's still kind of like a bit more ambiguous. Is that correct?
I believe that we were in the effort to get something to get feedback on and make progress on without, progress over perfection kind of idea. I think the idea was to take a few of the existing prototypes and figure out how to package them and make them available as, not sanctioned, use this in production kind of ideas, but as like what they are, which is examples that achieve certain like behaviors or certain outcomes. And then from there, try and describe what would be a more holistic view of these prototypes and why prototypes might be listed there. So basically try and surface the prototypes before we worry too much about like the organizational structure around it. That was my last understanding from one of the last one of the last working group meetings.
So what practically, I know that we've got that PR up. The last comment was 2 weeks ago, so I'm just trying to figure out like practically what does it look like for us to start to kind of move forward on trying to surface some of that.
I don't know. So I
okay.
think we're gonna have to ping Leanne in Slack probably and try and get an update, an async update, unfortunately. So
Yep, that's okay. Yeah, I think that's a good to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good question. So yeah. Cool. If there's nothing else on those two, mostly because it's a lot of questions without a lot of answers today. Sorry. The next one on the list is the maturity model. So this one has been picking up steam, which is awesome. We are in a state where we have done 2 deep dives, sessions in a synchronous kind of call format. The first I'd summarize as like a one big conversation over like alignment on big picture topics. And then the second one was narrowing in on the lots of ideas that we all shared in the first one into something that was more tangible or more kind of reviewable. That resulted in a new table, which is, I will share the, probably should have shared my screen here to begin with. Sorry, I didn't set up my computer. Let me open this up. Here it is. Okay, so I think what you can see now is our platform working notes. This is what
Mhm.
we're working off of here today, and we're sorry about that. I should have shared this sooner. So we're now at the platform maturity model, and where we've gotten to is we've sort of parked the big document because we've talked about how there's like sort of 3 sections to that document. There's like the preamble, why does this document exist? How do we expect people to use it? Then there's the table, which is sort of the screenshotable, slide deckable, high level overview. And then there's going to be a detailed section. And those are quite tightly coupled. So if the table changes, the detail section has to change, obviously. And so we were trying to focus in on getting the model, the table section more stable before we started investing a lot of time in the detailed section. So we have a session booked for tomorrow where we will hopefully review this table and decide if we feel like it's stable enough for us to invest in the more detailed write-ups about the table. I think some things to call out if you haven't seen this document yet. It is based on the outcomes of the previous calls as well as asynchronous chatter in the Slack channels and things like that. I tried to surface some of the shared beliefs that came out so that we would be on the same page and so that people could challenge any of these assumptions or any of these ideas, like which are kind of underpinning the table. So rather than kind of seeing weird things pop up in the table that are actually challenging the like underpinnings of the table, I tried to surface those. So please feel free to like question and ask questions and challenge any of these. And then separately or in addition, this table is the proposed table at this stage. This column here is going to be deleted once we do the detailed section. So I felt like it would be hard for people to review a table with like 25 words on it and no context as to where those words came from. So I tried to give like a sentence or two of context, but like this is only the tip of the iceberg, and there's going to be a much more kind of well written and detailed explanation of these aspects, like these rows as well as each item within each level within the row before we finish. So don't stress too much on that. But yeah, so I think things to call out is that there's a few less. There's only 5 things listed here, whereas I think in the past we've had as many as 7 or 8 even listed at one point. So something to think about if we're missing anything, any gaps. The other thing to kind of keep an eye on is I would say measurement is a brand new dark horse. So that came in through some Slack chat in the last week. And so does that fit? Is that something we want to see on the table or not? And if so, are these levels reasonable? They're sort of, as I say, not something that people have reviewed a lot of yet. So yeah, so we're going to have a deep dive on this tomorrow. And honestly, looking at our schedule, the last item that we want to talk about is going to be quite similar to the first 2, where without Michael here, it's not going to make a lot of sense for us to tackle it. Michael's introducing another piece of work he wants to kick off with the group around, I guess the way I would describe it is we've talked about how the white paper is like kind of the top of our hierarchy of content, and the maturity model is a level below that in tangibility and kind of grounding, but it's sure as heck not a prototype, which is another, that's levels below the maturity model. We're not going to be talking about technology in the maturity model, that kind of thing. But between maturity model level of depth and something like a prototype, there is a deep dive on the concepts behind the maturity model that we won't be able to cover in a consumable maturity model. And so he's looking to put together something that's a deep dive on platform as a product, as a concept. I think there's been talk now recently about observability or measuring of your platform as another possible example of like a detailed paper we can write that would kind of speak to, if you're trying to achieve maturity on this model, here are, more tangible things you can look at and how those work. So that's the context of the piece of work he wants to do. It's going to be steeped in user research around end user platform engineering teams and things like that. But so there's a lot of work to be done there around how we get those interviews with end users, how we derive data from them and therefore influence our outputs, and the like kind of structure and writing of that paper. But I know he has a bit of a straw man. So yeah, I don't want to go any further before he's able to introduce it. That I just want to give a bit of context in case that's something people are excited about, because come back, it will come up soon. So
Quick question.
Yeah.
Specifically on the deep dive for tomorrow. What I put down was that it seems like a bit of the deep dive is going to be fleshing out more of the specifics of the table. So now that we've kind of got the general structure, kind of diving into the implications of that and what that would kind of like practically look like to kind of put pen and paper and build that out more. Is that kind of as far as we're going, or are we thinking about next steps as well? Or do I have kind of the idea for tomorrow, right?
I think that so we have a provisional timeline. We are not deadline driven, just to be clear. But keeping in mind, if we would like to try and prepare this in time for KubeCon Chicago, like that is a opportunity. It is not a deadline, just to like clarify our stance on this. But that opportunity, we would probably need to look at preparing this for like kind of formal, the entire paper for kind of formal GitHub review, the way that we did with the white paper, by sort of middle of September, which would give us about a month of that formal GitHub review, before we would be able to then have about a month of like publishing and paperworking and all of that for it. So with that in mind, the thing that would trigger me to say, hey, that's not a realistic goal, would be if we leave tomorrow without alignment that this is a reasonably stable table. So my goal is to get to the point where whatever the table state is at the end of tomorrow is reasonably stable, would be my goal. Obviously, if people feel like there's a lot of things left to do, then there's a lot of things left to do, and we'll tackle those. And then the second goal of tomorrow, if we get there, is if there's people who want to take ownership over writing the detailed sections for any portion of the table, we need to get kind of initial straw man ideas down for these. And there's going to be a lot of like melding of writing styles and things to be done. But if we can at least get sort of ideas of what people want to be highlighted in the detailed sections, then that would go a long way for getting us started on that. So if anyone wants to own, one of these rows, or if people want to own a column or whatever, I think that would be cool, so that there's more diversity in those voices. So
Cool, thank you.
no worries. Any other questions about either the meeting tomorrow or anything else, or any other action items? Because what I'm thinking is, if we don't have it, like, so when we answer any outstanding questions, I'll use kind of 15-20 minutes of the rest of the time to have a chat about that table and make sure that anyone who's here who may not be able to make it tomorrow can have their voice heard and have a review of that. But I want to first make sure there's no additional items, agenda items, or questions that people have.
Light agenda today.
Yeah, it's cool. Everyone's just maturity model crazy. They all are like, I want to
Yep.
jump in.
I
Cool.
really want to be mature. It's about time.
Adulting is hard, Robert. I don't know if I want that in my life, but okay. All right, well then, if anything comes up, give a shout, but otherwise we'll turn our attention, and I would say have a look right now, jump in, read the comments, shout out if there's something in here that you think is offensive or just not quite right or missing, where I'll leave the floor open to anyone to drive the conversation in a way that they're interested in.
I like this. This is awesome. I hadn't gotten to looking at the new table that y'all made, but yeah, kind of gonna glance through it after this, or gonna review it carefully after this, but just from glancing through it now, I think this has made like huge strides. So really great work.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd call out is I'll actually, I don't think I added it here. Oh, I am not. Hold on, I'll add it when I'm logged in. So give me a second. Also,
Probably also good to just say that this is not like how the table will end up looking in itself. I think like
oh, I
it's
ain't
just
no
this
designer.
is just
Yeah.
this is just like an overview over the you know, so don't get stuck in semantics. I don't know.
Get stuck in semantics, not design, is what I would
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the
definitely.
other way around.
Yeah, exactly. I think Ram did a much better job of looking at design with his work when he did his sort of like personal rethink. So you can start to get ideas from him of like what design could look like. But that's part of why getting ourselves to sort of content complete by September and allowing ourselves time to have that content review and start thinking about design options is like gives us some time to do that. So yeah, ain't no designer. But the for context, the link I just added is what we did at the last deep dive, which is that we basically open the floor for anyone to sort of think blue sky, like empty page about this model, which I think is a really powerful option depending on how you like to think and how you like to work, and also is a really powerful option because I think it's very hard when you start from the ground up to try and divide these sections, and so I think it gives a little bit of empathy for like how do we design these. But there's some really good ideas that are what drove out this current table, so feel free to peruse if those help as well in thinking about stuff. So
If you don't mind, could you share the link in the chat in case if
sure. So this is the doc for that we're currently working on. Yeah. As I say, this is what's going to replace the document on the larger working doc. This page will be retired once we feel confident in it. It just was a lot of editing, and I didn't want to lose all of the context of comments without feeling comfortable with the changes. So.
I have one question, but I can maybe because I go through this table in detail today, and tomorrow I can come up with points if there is an valid points in that. But so one of the challenges with adopting platforms in the organizations is that at what scale of the organization is, and if it's a startup to middle, and also the moderate scale, and then bigger companies, right? And depending on the company and on their total organizational structure, actually also influences this platform maturity a lot. I have worked in I have experience in all of these companies, and when I look back in my entire career and then when I see the things, the challenge becomes more it becomes more complex a challenge when it moves to a larger organizations with a lot of different teams in it, right? So when we try to adopt these models and how we can add a dimension to this in the organizational scale that gives us a more thought-provoking table. For example, if I'm an executive director at the small company, right? When I look at this table, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not like these people are, but when you try to incorporate that also into these kind of foundational models, no one will neglect these. No one will take it as that it's not mine. Everyone try to understand it, or they consider this also as a dimension from small to medium to large scale enterprises, and they define the maturity by thoughtful thinking. So that is one of the points that I'm thinking in this table.
Yeah, let me see if I can reflect back if I've heard correctly. So what you're saying is that there are a wide range of kind of contexts that could use this, and how do we validate this can work in those contexts? I think that's a great point. I actually had meant to bring that up, that like I think another thing we can do tomorrow is if people want to try and work through their work cases, so whether they be former jobs, former consulting gigs, former friends of theirs that they know have had situations, like I think talking about scenarios associated with this and could you use it will be a good kind of litmus test. So I'm seeing some nodding. I think that's one piece of the thing you were saying. But then the second piece of the thing I think that you were saying is like, is there something more kind of concrete that we can do to like surface the differences between those environments on the table itself? Is that right?
Yeah, first point is correct. And second point is also that when I try to see these kind of maturity models and try to adapt as an organizational leader, first thing I look at is that, did they consider my category of the organization, my kind of scale, my kind of needs? And if they feel, oh, I think this report is mainly for, this maturity model is meant for the organizations with bigger scope and bigger teams and companies, and they say like, okay, it's not belong to me. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that how can we pass on a message that these kind of maturity models were well thought through and considered every factor possible in our knowledge?
So I think so I think that's another great point of that, like it's a goal of ours. And I think if we can prove out tomorrow in our review or at some point in our review that this is well thought out and this does apply to all different size and shapes of orgs, which I believe it is trying to, I believe it can. I believe that like that's one of the big points we were making of like, we don't believe that for every organization that reads this model should be moving to optimized. Like if you're a pre-product market fit organization, like you should be nowhere near optimized for your internal platform, right? Like that's okay. And so I think where we've tried to tackle that right now is in the kind of preamble and that introduction section. And I think that likely could use a refresh once we as we've kind of matured our own thinking about the model as we go. But that's one location where I know that we've been trying to add that nuance. Is there anywhere else that you think we could add that?
I think that is a perfect spot, to be honest. Yeah, because I didn't go through all of this documentation.
Nope.
I didn't involve.
Didn't expect you
to. Yeah. So that's why I'm missing the context. But I think that's a perfect place to be in.
Perfect. And so please keep an eye on that as you do review the document, because it is the intention to have covered that. That doesn't mean we succeeded yet, right? This is all still in review. And so you'll see you'll see some statements in here that hopefully start to reference that, but we could maybe take it a step further. Maybe it deserves its own section. I don't know. Like that's the thing that we'll start looking at. Yeah, now. So definitely.
Awesome. That's good. And I'll leave to others for their turn, and then I'll come back again. Another question.
No one's offended by any of the words on this table. You either are so offended you can't even be bothered to say it, or you've fallen asleep and you've managed to still look like your eyes are open. I can't believe that we've managed to get to a table that people are not offended by. It would be a miracle.
Yeah, I'll personally need just more time to kind of look through it and really kind of consider it, but nothing's striking out that's like slap in the face. I can't believe you wrote that.
Yeah, and that's okay. And we can pop off the call at any time. There's no need to fill the hour. I just wanted to give space in case people weren't going to be able to make it tomorrow if they wanted to, or if they felt like we were in some sort of position where if we were to come in tomorrow to the call, we're in a trouble zone. That if we could tackle something today before that call tomorrow, then we would be in a better place. That's all I wanted to make space for. So I'll give it a few more minutes, but I have no problem calling this a little bit early. Does that make sense?
If it's a little bit early, I would like to take your few minutes of time, and just like anyone, like it's not only you, like anyone, but mainly that because as a first time entering into this space, and I definitely feel belongs to in this community, and I want to see like how I can find the possibilities, and then how to make sure that I involve into this. And like, I need few minutes of guidance on that. So anyone who has like, hey, I'm the person, like I can definitely help you to handhold the initial phase. So I would like to have that.
That's a great question to ask. And yeah, sorry.
And
Yeah.
I was just about to say that to Vijay, like, but probably, or maybe Abby may have to go, but I'll at least stick and hope we get through them.
Okay. So one of the challenge that I see in the platform adoption is the communication and collaboration within the organizations, and which section of these is covering that, and I was not able to, especially like what I mean to say is that when I try to build a product internally, like especially like getting a buy-in from internal teams, if you see from an organization within the organization, that's a big space that buying in by other teams is so hard. And it's almost like you are selling your product to a person that who don't want to buy. So the point is that the main thing that links is that communication and also collaboration aspect of it. And then the platform engineering teams, the maturity comes with having more openness in the communication, and then understanding the ideas and collaborating each other, right? So where exactly we are covering in this particular table? I don't know if it belongs to or not also, but I personally feel me building the platform team, and I said like successful team, I can self rate it as the challenge. What I faced in the last couple of years is that influencing everyone to get it adopted, and then maintaining the SLS of it, and then also being an operationalization of it, and then making sure that, hey, this is a feature coming. So getting the requirements from them to recycle, like it's my like 16 hours a day of time that I had to took, because I believe in this model, and I took. But where in the table we are going to cover that kind of points?
I'm not sure if there's any one point where that is covered specifically directly, but I think it's like it's a mixture of some of these categories. I think that kind of answers your question. I think there's the idea about how to get adoption of the platform. It's also the idea of how to get investment, and investment is not not necessarily money, but also hours, people, etc. Getting people to understand the scope of what you're trying to do and get backing for that. There's also there's other aspects here where that kind of gets touched upon. I don't necessarily think we need to have something that is that specific to those specific pain points, but I think they get covered throughout the model in various ways. But I would, just at that point recommend you to read through it and think about that, set of pain points and try to see if you can find some sort of solution in the maturity model. And if not, if there's anything specific that you feel either would help, or what are the questions that you're left with, after doing that could potentially be solved through some sort of maturity model. Yeah.
I think that's a perfect thing to do. I'll definitely do that way. And then in case if I find any question that are not still answered after my reading, I'll bring it up tomorrow.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's exactly when I say like bring challenges in the sense of use cases tomorrow. I think that's exactly what you're doing, and that's exactly what, we can do it today and we can do it tomorrow, but that's what we want to be doing. One thing I heard in what you were saying is that you have applied the concept of platform as a product and managed you basically applied the platform as a product concept or technique. And I think one thing you'll notice in the evolution of the table from this initial sort of stab, which has been a bit extended on and a bit hard to read these days, but you can see it started with something like platform as a product as a mature level. We've moved away from that into things like community enabled and product budget and things which are more which are trying to step away from techniques and tactics and more look at like drivers and outcomes, where I'm expecting that when we drop into the detailed section, what does a product budget mean? A product budget means that this team is operating with platform as a product, where they are, have someone who is managing the product like roadmap and takes an active role in user testing and user feedback, and like those techniques, which, so it's like if you think about the durability of the content, right, the like intentions of the maturity model should stay quite durable. Like if that changes between version 1 and version 2, I would be surprised, like massively changes, right? The table itself, if it changes in the next 2 years, like maybe we'll see some evolutions of it, maybe we'll see some like improvements, like clarifications of it, but I would say that's it's hopefully going to be fairly durable. And what I think what you might see in sort of 2 years, an update to this thing, is an update to the descriptions, which is like, we have learned that to create that optimized platform, the techniques that we were advocating for today maybe don't stand the test of time as well as the concepts that we put into the model. So that's sort of what I think we're attempting to do, is create that durable model that then can have tactics and techniques hung off of it, and that those can evolve with time and with learning and with things. So yeah. All right. I think I may drop. If I know, VJ, you want to chat a bit more about like the group in general. I think anybody who wants to have that chat, like that's a great use of this time. So Robert, thank you for having time to stay on. Depending on where that chat goes, we can have Josh sort of just cut the recording, or we can turn off the recording now, whatever makes sense for you two, like, or the group, feel free to do. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing those who can make it tomorrow. So yeah.
Thanks everyone. Nice meeting you all.
Thanks, Abby.
It's a drop as well.
Thanks,
Bye,
y'all.
everyone. Have a good day.
We'll
Bye-bye.
turn
Bye,
off the
y'all.
recording.